Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 274, Teaching Mindfulness to Children, Roadmap to Coaching in League of Legends and Sleep Apnea. Okay, good morning, everybody. Oh, wait, I need to jump into the title slide now. A little rusty. It's been a while. Here I am. We moved to a different place in Los Angeles temporarily. Just coronavirus has caused it so that I don't really need a commute anymore, and commuting has kind of stopped. We moved somewhere less expensive than the location we were at that is much bigger, which is kind of nuts, and really, like, I know that that's a reality in pretty much any place where there's real estate, but it's just really excessive in LA. You know, you get some place that's 3 times the size for 1/3 the rent, and you're only 45 minutes farther out than you were before. It's kind of just like a different realm of rental growth, you know, in Los Angeles and New York. But anyway, here we are. I've kind of got a little bit of a desk studio set up, got a new camera, and I want to kick off the show again. So we're going to start by re-recording the last show that I did in the previous house before we moved. And I don't think we have any other announcements. Why don't we just jump into the questions? Question number 1 is from Lucas.
Hey Weldon, my question in short is, do you think there is a roadmap to follow if one wants to become a coach in League of Legends? More precisely, if you can help me finding my own roadmap to become a coach. My question is a bit longer. I'm currently doing my master's in bioinformatics, where I try to specialize in data science and statistics. While doing my bachelor's, I worked 1 year part-time as a teacher. I've been playing in League since season 4, but never managed to reach a higher elo than gold. My first task in my own roadmap is to coach myself at least to diamond elo, to gain a better understanding of the game itself. Can you help identify what else needs to be done if I want to pursue a career in League of Legends esports? Thank you for your answer and the awesome show.
All right. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what exactly do you want to be a specialist in a esports setting? So if you're becoming a coach, essentially, take away the exact definition of what it is to coach a League of Legends team, and just think about the coaching profession in general. As a coach, your specialty is behavioral change. So you would say that the psychology of behavioral sciences is your main specialty. And that means the areas of motivation, maybe things like measuring biological trackers that give you clues about burnout, optimizing nutrition, helping people create systems for training. That is kind of like more of the neuroscientific, psychological, or psychobiosocial realm of the brain, of the body. But really what you're doing most of the time is helping people with their day-to-day behavior change and their moment-to-moment conditioning and training change in drills. So that doesn't sound to me like what you're training for. It sounds like you are focused on bioinformatics, which is a very, very fantastic field with a lot of cool applications. I was just talking to somebody literally yesterday who was in this field and was doing work in they wanted to leave academia, so they went to Japan and they were working with the atomic bomb survivors, and then they left that work and they came back to the US and they were working in academia again. So I think that there's a large application of bioinformatics to esports and the League of Legends scenes that is outside of the term coaching, but includes probably in your mind what would be like a fun job or a coaching job, such as producing actionable material for teams or for players that they can use to improve their roles. So I think the first start would be to, as you said, coach yourself to diamond, but do it with your specialization, with a thing that interests you in the day-to-day. I would download every single analytics tool that uses AI to analyze your game, such as Mobalytics or, well, actually, that might be the only one left now at this point. I think all the other ones have kind of died away. But there's other like amateur hackneyed websites out there besides Mobalytics that are kind of used. And I would just use that and try to improve on it. Try to reverse engineer their algorithms. Try to find ways of representing skill and skill growth and finding patterns in the game with your own way. And then look at the other games that they're doing and look at maybe the next game that they should do but aren't doing yet, and start working on in that sphere. Once you get into helping gamers in general in the game that you're playing improve, you're just only one step away from kind of helping esport athletes do it. I know that none of the pro players on any of the teams use Mobalytics, but they do use other statistical websites to kind of like analyze how it is that they draft and how it is that they play. And they look at the data extensively and try to abstract their own meaning out of it. So I don't think that you're going to have a luck presenting abstracted meaning and statistical data directly to teams. But I would say that there is a huge field in the general improvement of gamers trying to get better at games without needing like a human coach. And that's a great place to start building your own resume and your own experience so that you're good at that, so that you have a fallback, right? Let's say you don't end up as an analyst on a professional team. At least you're working for a company like Mobalytics or some other tech company that is helping gamers improve. And at the very least, you're working at some website like Gamer Sensei, where you are actually coaching people one-on-one and helping them understand their own gameplay through the analytics views that you present that you use to improve yourself. And if you can get any of those people to pro and they join a team, then they will recommend hiring you, which is kind of like how I got my job. So if you want to know the roadmap to becoming a coach in League, it's to produce professional players who then want to work with you, or to work with professional players already that you make them win and then they want to work with you, which is kind of like the route that I took. And that is the only one I think that is really possible. Obviously, you can just apply to these jobs as they pop up on LinkedIn, the ones in teams in LA. My experience is they don't get a lot of applicants.
Auto shutdown initiated.
I don't know why my headphones are doing that.
Auto shutdown
Sorry.
canceled.
My experience is that they don't get a lot of applicants. I've seen anywhere from like 50 to 100 applicants to jobs like an assistant coach for a League of Legends team. So I think a lot of people weed themselves out and never finish the application process. And I think that you should definitely apply. But generally speaking, those applications to me seem to be incredibly nepotistic and not very... The HR in these companies is horrible, from my experience, from my observation, and your probability of getting hired there is much less than just kind of working up your resume and getting headhunted for one of these positions instead, is what I would say. Yeah, you need to put yourself in a position to get headhunted for one of these jobs. You're not going to be getting them through an application process. So. The next step after you've kind of like worked on your own facet of expertise is to try to work up to amateur teams. But once again, this is not a very good roadmap. If you're a coach of an amateur team, you're still not going to get through an application process onto a pro team. I have not seen that happen hardly at all. I think that it still comes through recommendations and through these more... like headhunting angles where like you are just recommended by somebody and they go to you and they say, we want you for this job. And that comes through producing other pro players that remember the work that you did for them. And can't really think of any more advice besides that, Lucas. But if you want to chat about it, please come to my stream and let's hop on a phone call. And I'm curious about an update now that it's been like 2 months since your question. So thank you for sending it in. All right. Announcements. No big announcements. I'm streaming a lot of World of Warcraft recently. Check it out. Let's do more of the show. Question number 2. This is from Timothy.
Hey Weldon, my name's Candela, and I've been playing this game since Season 3, started getting serious around Season 5, And right now I'm fluctuating in mid diamond and a peak D2 one tricking cast. I've been in this elo before, but my question was, what do you think about the concept of uh, work ethic versus natural talent? I feel like I could, at this point, based off the amount of games I've played and how long I've played, be hitting masters and further if I was playing this amount of games as anyone else. But I feel like I feel almost like I've plateaued, and it feels horrible because I really want to become good at this game. Thanks for answering my question.
So let me answer directly to your question about just improvement and plateauing first before we jump into the talent versus work ethic thing, because I think that that horse is kind of like beaten to death. If you're plateauing, one of the things you can do is take a break and kind of reset your mechanics and come looking at your own gameplay fresh. If you are not doing things like looking at your own VODs and getting an outside perspective from a coach, then it's hard to break through plateaus, because if you don't know what to do to make yourself improve, then you're not doing it. And so you're just practicing. Practice makes perfect, but practice makes whatever you're doing permanent, is, I think, the more apt saying, right? It's like practice does not make perfect, practice makes permanent. So you're just practicing the wrong thing over and over again and getting better at being mediocre. If you were there is a specific insight that comes with self-correction. So if you are one of the people who is playing the game and kind of like notices your errors, then kudos to you, you can self-improve. But there are plenty of people out there that just need an outside perspective and need to VOD watch to do the same exact thing and are perfectly capable of getting to a high level of play. It's just not coming from automatic learning. It's coming from reflective learning. And you should try that. Regarding the question of talent versus work ethic, I don't think that any evolutionary scientist could say that there's much to do with talent in the way of video games. Any talent that is represented are things that have to do with how you were raised and your experience in gaming. So they're kind of like more life skills, you would say. If your parents raised you to have the kind of like the right kind of focus and the right kind of reflective ability to critique yourself and the kind of perfectionism that is maybe at times destructive and maybe at times dangerous, but still is an aspect of perfectionism that makes you strive and kind of beats yourself up if you don't do it well and do it right, and you just want to do it cleanly for the sake of doing it cleanly, no other purpose. You have that mastery-oriented mindset, then you kind of like lucked out. And if you weren't raised that way, then it's likely that you have a lot of flaws that you have to overcome as a League of Legends learner, or as a game learner, as a person who learns kind of like any skill in order to become good at it. And that's kind of like not really luck of the genetic lottery, it's more luck of the what was my early childhood development like lottery. And then the other kind of talent that you would say exists in League of Legends is how many MOBAs have you played and how many game systems have you unpacked yourself? What kind of mentors have you had in terms of strategy? And that stuff, again, is like, okay, well, is it really a talent to have had all of those great experiences playing Dota 2 and being on a really good team and having a mentor, or watching really good people play, or losing to really good people who then forced you to kind of like upgrade your own skill level? So, yeah, there's advantages in how it is that you're set up. There's not really a talent that you can be born with yet in League of Legends. I don't think that anybody would say that that's possible, because we weren't really naturally selected in the jungle for our video game skill, like we were, for example, long distance running or oxygen processing, these kind of things that make athletic feat, height, for example, that make athletic feats possible. So the talent in League of Legends is much more soft and much more environmentally developed, and has a lot more to do with your learning ability. But definitely you shouldn't just throw yourself at a brick wall over and over again, expecting yourself to get better without a system in place. If just throwing yourself at that brick wall has not already gotten you better, then it's not going to do that. But your talent is clearly not in self-learning, so don't pretend that it is and keep attempting it. But also, your talent is not in not getting to a high level of play. That's a different thing. I just played mindlessly and was gold, and then I played mindfully, with a focus on my own self-improvement and with a reflective process, and I got to diamond. Mike Young kind of just like played along for a couple seasons.
Auto shutdown
and
initiated.
This is really annoying. Come on,
Auto
Corsair.
shutdown canceled.
I don't know what you're doing here. Mike Young played along for a few seasons, just maintaining the same rank in gold, and then he decided he wanted to go pro, and he developed a process, and then he went pro, within a year. So your capabilities in League of Legends are probably already predetermined in that you can either attain a really high level or you can't, and I don't know it and you don't know it yet because you haven't. But if you're just using one single system of training to improve and then you're calling it a failure, that's not enough of a test. We don't really know how good you can get. And so you need to try a bunch of different stuff, and you need to include not just automatic learning, but also reflective learning and coached learning and mentored learning and drills and all sorts of other ways of tackling improvement. Maybe some that you port over from other areas of your life where you've been successful. And then you can say, okay, I got to a high level, but I'm just not interested enough to, make the jump from where I am to where I need to be in terms of reflexes. That's another facet. Let's say you get to a pretty high level strategically and mentally in the game, and you're able to get a really high rating. Maybe your mouse speed is just not fast enough because you didn't play enough FPS over the last 5 years. Are you doing aim training every single day? Are you in Aim Trainer and working on your mouse speed and your mouse accuracy so that when you are actually a Masters player, you can compete with pros? Because that's one of the things that differentiates pro players is that they're just as good as the Masters players and the Grandmasters players. It's just that their mouse speed and mouse accuracy is a lot faster. And maybe it comes from their time in League, but generally speaking, if you don't have that, you're going to want to develop it, and FPS aim trainers are one of the best ways to do that. So there's a lot of facets here of to your question. I hope that I answered some of them in a way that's possible for you to be action that is actionable. Let's jump into the promotion of my beta website, mindgames.gg, which has a launch of an application that is like a web app, which is the beta of my mindfulness program. And hopefully I'm going to get back to working on that now that I'm settled in the new house. That's all I'll say about it. I think you can use the code AskWeldon to get a discount. Or actually maybe you can't right now. Anyway, if you go to the website, you can figure out how to sign up, I'm sure. It is currently in the beta, so it's much cheaper than it will be in the future. And if you had access to the Mind Games program like the video program before, which was just a online training course in video form, you should have access to the beta. You're grandfathered in for life. So please contact me in Discord or by email on the support email on the website if that's the case, and we can help you out there. And otherwise, check it out. The old video program is inside of the app beta, by the way. So while the app beta is still in beta, you can do the full course as it was originally, or the third version of how it was originally within the program while you're waiting for features in the app to kind of be slowly worked on by me in my one-man shop here. Okay, let's jump into question 3 from Leitian. I don't know how to pronounce this, man.
Hi, Weldon. 2 days ago, I finished my first iteration of Module 7, and I promised myself a good while back that I'd reward myself with this question to you once I'd finished the program, so here it is. The question: do you teach mindfulness to your children, and to what extent? Or more generally, do you recommend that Mac practicing parents teach their children mindfulness? Or do you generally think mindfulness is something that should primarily be passed on through example? That's it. From what I've found, searching through the Discord history, you've addressed how to practice Mac in relationships with parents and the like, but I think parenting involvement hasn't come up. As a brother to a younger sister, I treasure, and from general interest in the ideologies of our society and how we pass on knowledge to newer generations and grow as a civilization, I wonder if you have any insight to offer there. If the question is too personal, well, I tried my luck. Thank you so much for everything. I think the way you deliver knowledge and skill is hugely impressive. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you for this very insightful question. Yes, I think that parents should be executing mindfulness with their kids, kind of lead by example. I think maybe also actively doing mindfulness with your kids is very productive. There's a couple of reasons I'll talk about in a bit why. But in my own experience, the schools are already doing it. Our kids' elementary schools is already instituting social and emotional skills training. They're already doing mindfulness with their kids. The apps that they have already have mindfulness sessions kind of like in them, like kid-based ones. I do active mindfulness sessions with my kids in terms of, I'm not talking about sitting down and crossing our legs and meditating in the way that it is trained within yoga or within, some of the Indian religions, but Indian, Chinese. I'm not really sure there's where you would say mindfulness is from, which religions kind of like developed it, because it's a meditation, right? But anyway, it's quite a bit of them over there. I'm in California, so over there refers to Southeast Asia in this case. Anyhow, yes, I think that exhibiting mindfulness traits, doing mindfulness yourself, and then actively doing it with your kids or siblings is very productive, because really it's just a tool in the toolbox of social and emotional skills training, but it's more like an essential groundwork. It's like if you want to do other kinds of social and emotional skills training, having the ability to be reflective about your emotional state and to step back from what's happening in order to focus on a specific task is crucially important. The ability to not parallel process and to instead wholly focus on a single thing and switch that focus back and forth rapidly is an incredibly necessary skill. And adults that don't have it are just at a deficit. Kids that don't have it are just at a deficit. I've noticed in my children specifically adaptation on the 12-hour, 24-hour window when we do mindfulness versus when we don't. So there's this cool down effect that is showing up in the science of mindfulness research, where a specific mindfulness session will have, and I say specific because the ones that are developed for the study or for the lab, a specific mindfulness session will have an effect neurologically for an hour or 2 hours, or then 6 hours, and then it'll have different effects that last 12 hours, and it'll have different effects that are permanent. But for that, you need hundreds and hundreds of hours of training, thousands maybe. And so I've witnessed those effects in my kids anecdotally. What I've read about in the research, and I think that there is little to no research on this currently. So we have to go only with anecdotes and an understanding that the problems that kids have and that adults have are the opposite of mindfulness training. And therefore, mindfulness training should help those problems theoretically. I would say it's really clear grounding in the theory that this is a necessary thing for parenting and for teaching and for coaching kids. Whether or not the science will then back up those theories is a 10-year question that we will find out. But I'm pretty much betting on the mindfulness side of this research, considering the preliminary findings that have come out over the last 3 to 5 years on the neuroscience of this topic, of this exact question. So thank you for your insightful question, and I'm glad that I got to talk about it, because maybe there are no parents that are watching this now, but I think that here in Los Angeles, it's definitely a realm that I have considered getting into myself. spreading this kind of science around, not just in the gaming population, but also in the parenting, in the school age population. All right, let's jump into the final question of today's show. This one is from somebody named Infinity Soul.
Hello, Weldon. I have a question about breathing and apnea in game. During meditation, breathing helped me recenter, but while I'm playing, it feels like I'm less focused during the short period when I breathe in and breathe out. So I would like to know if you have studies about this, because maybe apnea can be useful during an intense situation, for instance, during a short team fight. Before that team fight, you want to breathe in, then apnea during the team fight to not get distracted by your own breath. Thank you.
I have noticed this myself in high stress situations where I just hold my breath. I'm not sure what the response is and why it happens. But I think that every single athlete will tell you that in high stress situations, you forget to breathe and you hold your breath. I don't think that it's a good thing, and I don't think it helps you focus. I think it's a byproduct of the high stress encounter. And I think that generally speaking, every sports coach would say they help their athletes calm down and breathe during these moments, and that in turn helps them perform higher. So I would say that modern coaching, I don't want to say like old wives' tale, but just like culture would say the opposite of what you were recommending, which is to, instead of saying that the respiration will distract me and hold my breath, you should learn to breathe without needing to think about it, which is what you're doing now. You have to force yourself to breathe, and that is distracting you. But if you get used to it, then you'll constantly be breathing even during these high stress situations. You won't notice it, it won't distract you, and you'll have your mental capacity back. You'll kind of recapture it for your performance. I think that every coach would say that that is the correct route. Now in weightlifting, this is different because you use your breath to brace some of your spine, some of your internal organs. You're doing things. Sometimes in yoga is kind of like the opposite. They want you to breathe even through the movements and things like that, so you have different control of your abdominal muscles. But I think in certain sporting movements, you are trained to lock your abdomen and your spine and your musculature in a way that restricts breathing heavily, and so it's better to hold your breath. But I don't think that's true in video games. And I don't think that that's true outside of those specific movements in sports. So again, there's no science to back this up. I'm not even sure how you would go about constructing a study for this. It seems like thoroughly impossible to know the answer to this question, because I think that the effect size of one way or the other would be so small that it would be insignificant. And modified by so many other factors that it would be impossible to test in any way. I'm happy to talk about experimental design at some future date. I think that I could go into it now for hours and explain the drawbacks and flaws of how you would set up an experiment and the different kind of statistics you'd use to try to like garner a result from it. But suffice it to say, this concept might be untestable. And you just have to like experiment for yourself and then kind of make a decision on your own about what it is that you want to do, whether you want to hold your breath or not during these high stress encounters. But I would say most sports coaches would recommend that you learn how to relax and breathe through it, and that will help you in the long run to win and to perform well. All right, that's the show for you today. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and hope you enjoy the new setup and the new camera quality and maybe even the new mic quality. I'm not really sure if it's coming through right now, but I will see you guys next time.